Grace and peace, family, and welcome to yet another powerful episode of Empowered Voices, brought to you by DLCI. I'm your host, Natasha Lehlohonolo Diteng, ke kgadi ya Masogana, ke Thojane ya Thisile, ke ngwana na Mosotho e buang. And today we will be diving in one of the interesting topics. As you all know, Empowered Voices was birthed from a simple but powerful truth that testimonies carry healing power. Sometimes the things people are silently struggling with can be healed simply by hearing someone say, I went through that too, and God carried me through. Today's conversation touches a reality that many families understand, but few openly speak about. We are living in a generation where many children grow up without fathers present in their homes, and with that absence often comes unanswered questions, emotional wounds, and silent struggles. But sometimes something powerful happens in the middle of that absence. Sometimes God steps into that gap. Sometimes heaven becomes the covering where earth failed. And sometimes a mother becomes strong enough to carry a responsibility she never imagined she would carry. Today's conversation is titled, Raised by Grace When God Fathers the Fatherless. This is not a story about loss alone. This is a story about resilience. It is a story about faith. And it is a story about a woman who carried the responsibility of raising sons while trusting God to help shape the men they would become. We are deeply honored today to welcome Mrs. Mkorwane. Ma, thank you so much for being with us today, whose journey as a mother reflects the quiet strength many women carry every single day. Thank you so much for trusting us with your story and for allowing this platform to share wisdom that will certainly bring healing to many families. But before we dive deeper into our conversation, welcome to Empowered Voices. It is lovely seeing you here seated with us. We are so blessed. Can you kindly introduce yourself to us? Who's Mkorwane?
Thank you, Natasha, for inviting me. I'm Mkorwane Unontlantla, a mother of two boys, was a widow at the age of 34, and I'm now 57. Yes, that's a nutshell of who I am.
Oh, wow. 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 So, Ma, take us back to the beginning of your journey as a mother. When you realized you would be raising your children without a husband, what emotions did you carry during that season?
Okay, at that time when it happened, because it came as a shock, it's not something that was planned, it's not something that I anticipated, but I find myself being a single mother, having to raise the two boys alone. And at that time, they were really at the very tender age, because the little one was 6 months at that time, and then the elder one was 6 years. So my focus at that time was to focus on raising them. And I didn't know how it was going to happen. And then, but God being God, he came through, and everything now is like, when we look back, like, okay, with God, everything is possible. So, but at that time when it happens, I only looked up to God to help me, because I was only a stewardship. I just remembered that, anyway, I'm only a stewardship. God, I am partnering with you in raising these children, and I saw God, taking us from point A to Z till
Wow.
this day.
Wow. Remember when I always say that testimonies carry power. So this is power. Point number 2, many mothers become strong for their children even when they are hurting inside. What were some of the struggles you had to face privately while raising your sons?
Having to play a role of a father, a mother, and then making sure that everything runs smooth as normal, and then having to face those challenges alone. And then in my mind, I was like, how am I going to do this? Because I had someone who's been, doing all these things. Now I have to do it all by myself. And then at the same time, I didn't have much time to feel pity for myself. I had to stand up and do what I was supposed to do as a mother, as a single parent at that time.
A strong parent you are. Was there a moment where you felt overwhelmed by the responsibility of raising boys without a father figure?
Many times, yes. It was easy while they were still young, because like they just believe in me. Everything that mommy says, it goes. And at that time, I was like, I became a hero to them, that mommy knows everything. When we ask for this, mommy provides. When we do this, mommy is there for us. But as they grow, and it becomes a challenge, you know, especially when they're starting to enter into their teens, like from 12 upwards. That's when they realize it's like, actually, mom doesn't know everything.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's become a challenge because now the questions they ask, they differ from while they were still babies. You know, at that time they will believe everything that I tell them, but now as they grow up, there are questions that they were like, now I have to be brutal about the answers that I give them because that's what will carry them to be men they are today.
Wow,
Yeah.
powerful, powerful. Were there moments where you feared that the absence of their father might actually affect the kind of men they would become?
Yes, many times I feared that because there's so many stories that you hear about, you know, boys, especially if they don't have any father figure. Like I had that thing that a father is the person who is very strong in the home, who brings order. And then I thought to myself, how am I going to do all this all by myself? And then I had that fear in me that maybe one day these kids, they will slip away from my hands. But trusting God in everything, I saw God, you know, being the father. I saw God, you know, giving me wisdom, more wisdom, you know, to raise them well. And then, but the thing that I did, the most brilliant thing that I did, it was to introduce them to church, nothing more. Like it was church and church and church and nothing else. And I saw God, you know, taking them, you know, further, you know, from what I believed. And at that time, also remember, we take them, the kids to church. At the time, nothing makes sense to them. They are just following you as a parent. And then, but as they grow up, and then when everything begins to make sense, that's when you like, you clap hands for yourself when they come to you and say, oh, mommy, you did well for introducing us to Christ.
Yeah.
So because at that time, nothing made sense, we were just following you, but now everything, it makes sense. We like, we can't thank you enough for what you did. So that also encouraging me. It said, oh, okay, it means I was in like on the right track, you know, with God on my side, of course, not like on my own, because everything I will go to God, go to Gulu. Now here I am finding myself being a parent, here to play all the role. But my belief and the word of God says, you are the father to the fatherless and the husband to the widows. Now my understanding of a father is a provider. So now I'm looking up to you to provide for these children. When there is no food on the table, when there is no money to make sure that I meet their needs. But I saw God, you know, coming through from that time till today.
Wow, wow. The best gift a parent can ever give to their children, it's introducing them to God. Well, before we continue, I'd love to invite someone who will help us explore another important dimension of this conversation, the emotional strength and resilience required in motherhood. Mataba, over to you, madam.
Thank you so much. I just want to thank you again for joining us so much. Thank you, Mrs. Mukorani. Um, First things first, I want us to look at basically the deep emotional side of parenting and how it was for you. What, like many mothers, inherently just sacrifice a lot of their goals, and that's just how it is, even if they have a husband. What were some personal goals that you had to sacrifice because you realized that you were all alone, and what did that do to you?
Okay, firstly, you know, you put your life on hold, you know, thinking, focusing on raising the children, because what you do, you want, you know, the best out of them. So you're trying so hard, you know, to make sure that they become what God, you know, intended them to be. But at the same time, you also need to live, you know, and then, but you decide, you know, when you become a parent, actually, the self in you dies. And then because, especially when you have brought the children on earth, so self dies, and then everything becomes about them, about their future. You want the best out of them, you know, and then sometimes when you discipline them with love, but at the same time, you don't want them, you know, to be like, do as they pleases, you know, because mommy is tender, mommy is this, but you still try to be hard at the same time with love, And then at the same time, also, you don't want them to, slip away from you because you are too harsh on them. At the same time, you need to be like gentle. So there's so many things that I put, myself on hold, that I was not able to focus on them. And for example, one of them, like moving on with my life, because I remember when this thing happened, early was when was still early years of becoming a widow. My prayer that I prayed was like, God, help me to raise these boys in such a way whereby they will say to me, Mom, we are grown up now, move on with your life. And I see that happening now, because every time they will ask, Mommy, now you can move on with your life. We are good, but we don't want to leave you alone and, lonely. Yes, you were busy raising us, but now we're old. And then now you need to take care of yourself. And then at that time, when I think of it, yes, I prayed that prayer. But when I think of it, I was like, my goodness, I actually put my life on hold raising these children. And now they are telling me they are old. They want to now start their own life. You see, this is how children can be. I remember many years, Apostle once ministered to, he was speaking about the marriage is with how a husband and wife needs to have a relationship between themselves. Because some of the parents, when things are not going well in the marriage, they seem to have that barrier, not talking to each other, and then using the children to in between so that they can address issues. And then he said, have a relationship with your husband, because the two of you met before these children came. So if you don't have a relationship with the two of you when they are gone, because when they decide to go, sometimes they won't need your permission to leave you. But now imagine, now there is no relationship between the two. They are gone, and then one is watching TV, one is reading newspaper, because you have no conversation. You never built a relationship between the two. Your life was all about the children, raising children, this, and then you end up using actually the children as a scapegoat, not to have a relationship with each other. So in a nutshell, I'm trying to say, yes, as much as we raise the children, it's not fair for us. And then when we raise you guys and put our lives on hold, and then later you tell us, okay, it's time for us to move on, move out, so we're moving out of the house.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Looking back on your parenting journey, were there any moments where you felt specifically alone, and what were those moments like for you?
To be quite honest, yes, the loneliness do come, but it's not something that actually made me not to do things or to shift my focus, because I think my focus was too much on them because they were very young. So even if I feel the loneliness, I could not like have time to entertain my loneliness, because I have them keeping me very busy. Like they were keeping me so busy in such a way that like I never had moments, really serious moments whereby I was like, okay, now I'm feeling the loneliness, because at the time they were always in my space. When in the morning you wake up, you prepare them, you drop them to school. When you come home, they are here, they jumping on you. They need attention, homeworks and everything. And then as they grow up, I remember they were in sports, both of them. And then you find yourself waking up on Saturday morning, dropping this one to soccer, and then this one is playing on Sunday. I'm at church, and then after church I have to run and go and watch, because now I have to balance. If I don't go and support this one, and then I support that one, and then so it's gonna be like, okay, you've got now favoritism, you're favoring this one over above this one. So now I have to balance myself. Then I have to make sure that I balance, and then what I do on the left, I have to do on the right, and then make sure that I balance. So in that moment, I'd never felt so much like with the loneliness actually was never been in my vocab at that time. And then only now that they have grown up, people now, they are in their rooms, then you find yourself also in your room. And then now it's sometimes you no longer have that dinner on the table all together because people are having their own things in the rooms and like that. So now that you feel, oh, actually, I'm actually lonely now.
Yeah. Ish. Okay, and then on the days where you felt emotionally exhausted or overwhelmed, what helped you find strength to keep on going?
Actually, that was God. I will find my strength in God. I will pray a lot. I like pray, fast, pray, and then I was like more dependent on God more than anything. Like church, that became my anchor to hold on when I'm feeling overwhelmed about the situation, because during my widowhood there are lots of things that happened around me. I had to deal with the in-laws, I had to deal with my loss, I had to deal with the children that are small that I need, to focus. There was a whole lot that was happening around me, but my hope was in the Lord. I draw my strength from God, and then I saw God being my pillar in everything.
Wow, so powerful. Having such wisdom to raise such wonderful sons, I think you can only get such wisdom and strength from the Lord. And I think Miss Mkorani is a clear testimony to that. My last question then, what message would you give to a young mother today who feels like she isn't strong enough to raise her children on her own?
Remember, the children are a gift from God.
Mm-hmm.
Give them to God.
Yeah.
When the situation overwhelms you, just give them to God. Say, Father, here are the children. This is the gift that you have given me, but right now I am overwhelmed. I need you to help me. God will jump in.
Wow, so powerful. Thank you so much.
Amen.
Hand over back to you now.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow, that was so powerful. Allow me once again to invite Sis Nontobeko in our conversation. Over to you, madam.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Mukorani, thank you for joining us and sharing your story with us. At this point, we would like to discuss the spiritual part of your journey. Mama, during this journey, how did your relationship with God evolve as you carried your responsibility of raising sons without a partner?
Wow, my relationship with God during this time, actually it grew stronger and stronger, because like I found myself more, more deep in the things of God, like more praying, seeking God more, because my fear was losing them, to the world. So I tried by all means, to stay connected with God all the time, bringing them to God, and then consulting with God how to do things, certain things that I didn't know how to do them, and then and also with our pastor as well, being always there for us, with the preachings. So I never had, a time whereby I felt disconnected to God during that period. I think when I feel fearful, and then when I feel like I'm alone in this journey, that's where I will consult God even more. And then I saw God, taking me from strength to strength during the whole process.
It's so nice to see that instead of finding weakness in your situation, you found strength in God. Going to our next question, were there specific prayers you remember praying repeatedly over your family?
Okay. Yes, there were prayer. I think there was one, the first year of my loss, I was in the warfare prayers, because I was so fearful that these people will take my children away from me. So I was so fearful in such a way that I spent the whole of that first year in the warfare prayer. I was doing the midnight prayers like a lot. I remember the little boy Mbuso was still a baby, and then sometimes, because I would pray at 12, but what the strange things that used to happen, the boy will cry from 11. He's like 11 at night, he will scream, like not crying. When the child scream like this, somebody is strangling him, he will cry like non-stop. And then in such a way that I will put him, at my back, and then start praying with him, praying, start interceding, praying and praying and praying. And then by the time it starts 12 o'clock, then he will sleep on my back. When he sleeps, it will be like, you know, when like the person who's been running, you know, when you're doing a marathon, then you are now tired. When you find a time to stop, then you just put yourself down like that. He will be like gone, like nothing happened. He will be like dead on my back, but I will continue to pray. And then that thing happens like for like quite some times, whereby the child, you know, keep on screaming during that time where I'm supposed to pray. But I never stop. That's when I decided to stop, is to pray even more, because at that time I felt like it was an attack for me to, like, it was an attack for me not to pray. And then at that time, I felt like this is the time that I need this prayer more than anything. If I don't pray, like there was a time where you feel exhausted because sometimes the kids are crying overnight, you're going to work in the morning, and then yet you have to pray. You know, warfare prayers, they are so exhausting. So sometimes I will feel like, oh God, I am so exhausted, but I need to pray. If I take a nap during my time of prayer, I will feel like somebody is going to come and attack me. So I will jump into my bed and then start praying, and then I'll pray, and then I'll pray and pray. So there was like no time whereby I will say I will just give God, you know, some break, but I will pray even more. And then worst part of that, when I went back to work, and then my boss, one of my boss left, and then they hired a new boss, and then that person, unfortunately, we didn't see eye to eye with her for some reason. I don't know what was the reason, but he will just attack me. Like, you know, when she was just making my life miserable. I remember there was a time whereby I used to travel. My job, like I would go maybe travel, okay, but province, around a province to another province. There was a time when we travel, you know, when you travel, you have to maybe do some claims. When you come back, maybe you keep the slips of whatever you spend on the road, and then I'll bring that back, and then I send my claim to her to sign, and then everything. So when I follow up on that claims, I remember there was a time when I was following up on on that claims, because she was taking longer than the usual. And then I remember she said to me, why are you on and on about about your claims? Didn't your husband leave money when he died? You know, that was so insensitive. I cried. I went to the bathroom, and then I cried. I said, God, what is happening? Why is this woman talking like that? I mean, really, even if he did leave some money, does it mean then it must be used like in that manner? You know, it was difficult in such a way that I remember one day there was a shop in the China Mall in Bruma Lake. They were selling shades. I would buy lots of shades. I had like lots of shades. There was a big shades that I would wear, because I realized when I'm driving all the time, I intercede. I end up praying in the car, crying, and then when the car stops, maybe at the traffic lights, then I'll see people, you know, other drivers looking and staring at me with how this person is driving, and then she's crying, and then I end up buying those shades so that when I cry, nobody sees it, so that I can carry on with what I was doing. I will pray over and over, and like I find myself praying even every moment that I get. I will pray, because most of the things that I feared with, like, I have to protect my children. Nobody will take my children away from me. So if I don't pray, I will feel like they will be like slipping away from me, or somebody will come. And because actually one of the things that the in-laws wanted to do, they actually wanted to take the children from me, because they felt good, you know, I must go back home. Then and leave their children. So I had that fear, which, you know what, I have to protect. This is all I have. Then I have to protect them. So I would find myself praying more than, you know, anything else.
Indeed, when you find yourself in difficult situation, God uses other people to test your strength, and
Yeah.
prayer is one of those things to overcome them.
True.
Looking at your sons today, do you see moments where you felt God was truly fathering your children, even when their father was not present at the time?
Many times. Many times. Like, I cannot express that enough. God has been my pillar. God has been the father. God has been everything to my family. Like, there were no moments whereby they will go to bed without food. There were no moments where they will go to bed without shelter. So there will no moment where they will miss school because I didn't have money to take them to school, or maybe I didn't have money for transport, or they didn't have anything, to carry like at school, or there's no food. I saw God, doing it for me. Like, every way, every step of the way, God has been the father. Even for them, to keep the faith until this time, that was still God. Because whatever that I instill in them, the faith, but without God, also taking over, it would meant nothing to them. But because God also was like partnering, with me in raising them the godly way. So today I can look back and say, you know what, I am safe now. So I'm in a point whereby if I feel I don't have strength today to pray, I call them, go, okay guys, today I don't have strength to pray. And then they step in, they say, no, it's fine, Mom, we are here, let us pray. They're able to, to pull me back now. We say, no, Mommy, come, let's keep going. You've done so well. Let's keep going. You can't give up now. So I'm in that point whereby all glory goes back to God. I've seen God in my life. Where the way when the word says He is the father to the fatherless and the husband to the widows, I saw that word being alive in my life and in the life of my children.
Yeah. So there are other mothers who are in situation like yours. How would you then encourage them to give? What encouragement would you give the families who feel broken but are trusting God to restore their homes?
God never fails us. God never fails. So all we need to do as mothers is to put our trust in God. There are prayers, there are times whereby you will pray for your children, and then you feel like God is not answering me, God is not hearing my prayers. But be encouraged, because the foundation has already been laid. So whatever foundation, godly foundation that you have already laid to the children, it will always speak to them. They will go astray. Sometimes they will slip up. My children also, they were like not perfect. In the midst of everything, it's not like they were perfect. One of them, the elder one, Shady, he had a child, out of wedlock. You understand? So that was his test. But I did not use that to crush him even further, but I had to embrace him. Good, okay, it's fine, you have fallen, but there's still God. God is still there for you. God still has the plan and the purpose for your life. Pick up your pieces and let's move on. Let's go on. So what is nice about, instilling values of Christ, that Christ background, even when the children, go astray or go wayward, or when the peer pressure, overwhelms them, they always remember where I'm coming from. So the one thing that they will always remember, they will come back and say, Ishbite, I'm not supposed to be doing this. I'm not supposed to be doing. My parents' mom is not going to be happy with this. And then they'll come back. So what I will say to mothers who are raising children, single children, and then who are feeling they are overwhelmed, I will say to them, keep on doing it. Keep on inviting God in the midst of what you are going through. We serve a God who sees in the secrets. When you pray, your prayers will not go void before God. One day you will reap from what you have sown.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Mokorane, for sharing your journey with us. And I hope that the mothers out there who are going through the same situation will learn from your experience and take courage to do better. Over to you, Natasha.
Wow, such a powerful testimony. So, Ma, I want to ask you this question. Looking at your journey today, looking at Uputumbuso and Upuchedi, are you proud of yourself as a parent to see where you have come and the men that your young boys have become today?
I am very proud and grateful to God. You know, sometimes I ask myself, Guti, who am I really to deserve such honor? And God has honored me in a big way when it comes to these two boys. I don't take that for granted, and I don't say that with pride, but I say it with humility. This can only be God. Yes, as much as I play my role, but God was behind me all the way, and I am so grateful to God. Like every day, so when I look at them, sometimes when I'm in my room and then listening to one praying on his room, the other one praying on the other room, I'm like, God, how did we get here, really? I'm like, how did we get here? How did I get this right the way it is right now? So all glory belongs to God. I give God the glory. For me, it was to say yes to his will, you know, to steward this, to partner with him as a steward, to raise these children.
Okay.
And introduce them to Christ. That was that's all I did. And I can say to other women, which there is no formula. Like there is no formula that I can write it down to you and say, okay, this is what I followed. It was just grace of God that, you know, caught me on the way while I was busy raising them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So I heard you before saying that Abambuso and Noshedi are saying that it's now time for you to move on. It's time for you to move on. So are you ready as a mother to see yourself moving on and to see your boys getting married, because they are grown now, and I believe it's near the time for them to get married. Are you ready to be in that season of loneliness, real loneliness?
I am so ready to allow them be who God wants them to be, because sometimes, you know, as mothers, especially I'm going to be a mother-in-law, especially the mother-in-laws, we have a tendency, you know, to hold on to our children. You know, and then that's not fair for them. So as mothers, as much as we are attached to each other, but you also need to allow our children to grow and then to be men as well, you know. And I am so ready for them to, you know, to move on and get married and have wives, children. I'm looking forward to be a granny. I always say, okay, it's fine. If God, my desire is to not to age alone, okay? That's my desire. But I don't want to make that desire be a stumbling block for me not to do what God wants me to do. My life is not on hold waiting for someone to come into my life. My life is continuing because there is a lot that God has laid in me. There is a ministry right now that I'm going to be engaged in that also keeping me busy. Hence, that is why that when she was asking about the times of loneliness, I don't have much of those times whereby I will say I'm lonely, because I always find myself have something to do. I always find myself busy with something instead of focusing on my loneliness. But yes, it is my desire not to age alone, not to age alone, as they are telling me every day, with mommy, we are releasing you now, and then go be yourself, go and mingle, because we are leaving. They tell me every day, mommy, we are leaving. And I am looking forward to release them as a mother, to say, yes, go there and be a father, experience life for yourself, and then without having, you know, to come to me and say, mommy, can I do this? Mommy, can I do that? You know, because that's what happens now. Many marriages, many young girls who they are married, but they are finding it difficult, you know, in their marriages to focus and be themselves, because mother-in-laws, they seem to interfere. They seem to want to control their sons, especially the sons, because the girl child, there isn't much of a problem with the girl child when leaving their homes. Their homes are always happy and support. But for us as mothers to of the grooms, we always, you know, having this thing, is my son, is this, and still want to hold on and have control. And then that's not right, because that is why nowadays we are raising, the community of angry people, the community of bitter children, because they are seeing their mother, how they have been treated in the marriages by the in-laws. So I'm breaking that cycle. And then it is not going to happen in my children. My children will make their decision, their choices. I can't choose for them. All I have to do is to pray for them to choose right. But whatever they bring and then say, this is what I have chosen, Ma, I just have to support them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Mom Koran is going to be the best mother-in-law, don't you guys think? So, looking back now, what do you think was the greatest lesson God taught you through raising your children during that season?
The lesson, Okay. The lesson that I've learned from raising these children is that it is possible. It is possible. It is very possible, raising the children alone, and they still come out best. The only thing that we need is to always partner with God. Don't do it alone, because if you are doing it alone, you are doomed to fail. Yeah.
Wow. We have come to the conclusion of our episode. And my take from this is that a test in a believer, it's a build-up for a testimony. Ma, thank you so much for trusting us with your story today. Your journey reminds us that even in the most difficult circumstances, God still writes a testimony of strength, faith, and resilience. To everyone listening, this is Empowered Voices. We hope this conversation reminds you that God has a way of stepping into the spaces where life feels incomplete. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Empowered Voices, and we are signing out. Stay blessed.
Thank you.
Wow, Mom, you had the
Yo.
before.